Hi, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and for today's STEM activity, I'm going to show you how to make a flyer that works much the same way a maple seed does, in that it imitates sort of a helicopter motion to float its way downward rather than simply falling. And it uses a tornado-like vortex to remain aloft for longer. To make this flyer, you will need a pen, a ruler, a paper clip, and some paper. This is just some scrap paper I had left over from a Valentine's craft from last week, and we are going to use it, just a little bit of it actually. You don't need this much, but any computer paper size paper will work for this activity. You need it to be at least 8 inches long and 2 inches wide. Speaking of, that's how we are going to cut this. So I am going to take, I think, this side because that side is a little bent. And we are going to measure out 8 inches. So I'm going to line up my ruler right here along the edge of the paper. And I'm going to make a little bit of a mark right here at 8 inches. I'm going to come down here and do the same. And then I'm going to come up here to the top of my page, lining again the edge of the ruler with the edge of the paper. And I'm going to make a mark at 8 inches. And then I'm going to line my ruler up on those marks. Further back because my pen is kind of wide, and we're going to make a mark. So, oh, you also need scissors. I forgot scissors. How could I forget scissors? That's pretty important for this. So I'm going to cut that off, and then I will have a piece of paper that is 8 inches wide. If you are starting with computer paper is naturally 8.5 inches wide, so you only need to cut off a 1/2 inch. So you can measure it that way too. But you need 8 inches wide. Now we're going to measure 2 inches up. So I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to use that side of the ruler because it's weird. It goes to 12.5, which always just makes me feel weird. I don't know. 12.5 is a weird measurement. So I'm going to line up my ruler along this edge of the paper and make sure that my bottom edge of my ruler is lined up with the bottom edge of my paper, and I'm just going to make a mark at 2 inches. I'm going to make another mark. I'm going to do that about halfway down. My table is not even. It's weird. What's going on here? Turn it this way. So again, lining my edge of my ruler up with the edge of my paper, make a mark at 2 inches, and then I'm going to do that at the very edge of my paper as well. So I'm going to line up here and make a mark at 2 inches. Then again, I am going to, there's just a weird bump in my table today, y'all. I'll turn the paper this way. I'm going to line my ruler up along those marks. They're not perfect. That's okay. And we're going to draw a line across, and then we're going to cut that off. And that is the base of our flyer. So you can get a couple of these out of a piece of paper. So this is going to be our flyer. Just this little sheet of paper, believe it or not. I set aside my scrap. You can make a couple more of these if you want. You can decorate them. I'm using colored paper on one side, so I probably won't decorate mine, but that's okay. Next, you are going to make some measurements. So we want to measure 3¼ inches. So on my ruler, there's my 3-inch mark. Well, I need 3¼ so I need to find the 1/4 inch mark, which is right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 would make a full inch. So that's the 1/2 inch mark, that's the 1/4 inch mark. All these other marks are 16ths and 1/8. So that's an 1/8 and that's a 16th. But we want a 1/4. which is right here. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the left side of my page. We're measuring from the left. That's actually important. So we're going to measure from the left, and we're going to make a mark at 3 1/4 inches. I'm going to come up a little. I'm going to again line my ruler up with the edge of my paper and make a mark at 3 1/4 inches. And I'm going to draw a line right here, but I'm not going to cut anything. So don't cut, just draw a line. Okay, now we're going to draw a line from this line to the edge of the paper. So if this line is vertical, this line is going to be horizontal. And we want it right in the middle. So I'm going to, again, line my ruler up. We know that our piece of paper is 2 inches wide, so middle would be 1 inch. And then I'm going to do the same up here. I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of the paper and make a mark at 1 inch, which should be the middle. And then, trying to avoid the bump in my table here. I'm going to line up my ruler, and I'm not going to make a full mark. I'm just going to make a dashed line here, and that is to remind me later that this is a line I'm going to cut. So I'm going to cut along this line rather than folding. So the solid lines are going to be our fold lines. Okay, so next we're going to do some measuring from the right side of our paper. So we're going to, I'm going to line it up at the top so that the 0 and the 1 inch mark will be down here. I'm going to line it up with the edge of my paper, making sure the edge of my ruler is lined up with that edge. Come over a little bit. And I'm going to make a mark at 3/4 of an inch. So find your quarter marks. So that's 1 quarter, 2 quarters, or 1/2 inch, 3/4. So I'm going to make a mark right there. I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to make another mark. And I'm going to draw a solid line this time between those two marks. If you're a little off, that's okay. We're just mostly getting the general proportions of this. As long as your general proportions are close to mine, you'll be okay. So now we need to measure 3 1/2 inches from the right. So I'm going to again line my ruler up. I keep moving my paper. This darn lump on my thing. There we go. Line my ruler up. So my 0 mark is down here at the bottom, lined up with the edge of my paper. And come to 3 1/2 and make a little bit of a mark. And then I'm going to come to 3 1/2. I'm going to make a little bit of a mark. Now this is the tricky part. This is going to be a dotted line, but it doesn't need to go all the way. We need a blank space in the middle, which I know sounds really weird. So I want you to line it up. Line your ruler up along that line and line the edges up so that they're at an inch mark. So I've got this at the 5 and the 7 inch mark. So my edges are there. So we're going to come, let's see, what would that be? Not quite. All right. So we're going to measure a 1/2 inch up, and then we're going to add 1/8 of an inch to that. I know that's weird. We're dividing this area into 3. So just take an eyeball to it, and that way we have 3 marks. So we're going to draw a dotted line to this mark and to this mark. And then we're going to draw a line from that mark to this line. Right here, we're going to stop. Well, you can go all the way to the edge of your paper, actually. Then we're going to draw a line from that mark to there. So it should look like that. So these lines, what they do is they divide this space here into 3. So 1, 2, 3. And if it helps you to just go ahead and draw a dotted line there, that's fine. But just don't cut. We're not going to cut right there. So you should have this at this point. If you don't, rewind, find my measurements, figure out where you missed, because we're going to move to the next step. So what you want to do is you take your scissors and we're going to cut along this line right here. Just to that line. So not all the way down. We're going to stop when we get to our line. And we're going to cut these two lines, but we're not going to cut all the way across because then we just chop our paper in half and that's not good. So we're just going to cut right to here, like that. And then the same thing over here, like that. All right. So now, since I have a colored side of my paper, if you don't have a colored side of your paper, that's fine. If you want to color one side of your paper before you make these cuts, that's also fine. You can totally do that, or you can do it on your next one once you know how to fold it. But we are going to now take this and we're going to fold along this line right here. So we're just going to fold it in like that. And we're going to fold it, you can unfold it, and then we're going to fold it in like this. That way you can see kind of what you're doing if you unfold it between these. And then we're going to fold up along here. So we're going to fold kind of like that. Alright, and then once you've folded this one up, this flap up, go ahead and fold these back over. And if you have to recrease them, depending on how you folded them, they might be a little stiff. And you're going to take your paper clip and you're going to put it on the bottom here. So just like that, you're going to paper clip it together. That's going to help hold it together. It's also going to do something else, which we'll talk about here in a second. So for these flaps up here, I want you to fold one down this way, like that. But your other one, you're not going to fold this way. You're going to fold your other one backwards, so like that. So we should see the white side of this one. And then you're going to unfold them a little, just kind of fluff them up. So you should have this kind of three-dimensional T shape. Looks like a hammer this way with flaps and a T with a paper clip on the end. And what that paper clip does is it holds it together, but it also gives it some weight because this is our bottom, and you'll see it's the bottom no matter how you throw this. So you're going to throw it up in the air and it will start spinning. It'll right itself so that it's facing this way, and the paper clip is going to point down, and it'll turn like this as it falls, and it'll just gently float to the ground. And the paper clip, the reason it does that, the reason it'll flip, no matter, you could throw it this way and it's going to flip around depending on how high you throw it. If you don't throw it really good, maybe not, but if you throw it from pretty high and standing up, it's going to flip around so the paper clip is point down. And it does that because the paper clip gives it some weight, and so it's heavier on this end than it is on this end. And that paper clip, being heavier, will be pulled down by gravity to be the bottom. And also, simultaneously, these little flaps will help catch the air as that vortex starts and it starts to spin, and it'll help it stay aloft. So if my hand is the air, it's helping it stay aloft by being under these flaps. Okay? So I want you guys to test it out. I don't know if I can show you this on video, but we are going to try. I'm going to lift up my camera here a little, and I'm just going to drop it. Nope. Okay, I don't have a space in my office to show you guys that, but take it outside or take it just in your house, in your room, and you can throw it. If you have 2 levels, you could throw it down the stairs, but be careful, don't fall down the stairs, and have some fun with this. Thank you.